Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here again on the channel with Toby, and today we're going to be talking about episode 7 of the series Andor. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about the episode 7 of Andor, which was called The Announcement.
Yes.
And I think this is there's several references within the show about announcements of announcing that the rebels are coming out and that this is all going to start to happen.
Yes. It's a statement, isn't it? This whole episode is a statement about the rebels.
So, obviously, at the end of the last episode, we saw the heist and they'd stolen the money, got away, but Andor didn't want to stay with them, so he'd taken his cut, left. We didn't really see any of the sort of them getting the money back or anything that sort of side of things, did we?
No,
that was kind of not addressed. We're back in Coruscant, and we sort of see Cyril. Actually, he's come back into it again, and he's at home with his mother, who's still giving him a hard time about his dressing and what he looks like.
Well, he's tailored, hasn't it?
Yeah,
he's tailored, and it was interesting because she says, "What do you think that says to your potential employee?"
Yeah.
And she says, that he's desperate. In my mind, I thought it says that he knows what he likes. He has a particular way he wants to be seen.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe she's misinterpreting.
He wears the high collar, doesn't he? And he's sort of all, he's quite tight-laced, isn't he, shall we say?
Yeah. It's almost, he's got a bit of, dare I say it, sophistication about him in the way that he dresses. Yeah. He wants to be a bit more standoutish.
Well, we'd noticed it in the previous episodes. He had actually changed his uniform a bit, hadn't he? Do you remember when they were saying, "Have you been playing with your uniform?"
Yeah.
So he's particular about how he appears and what he's like. He's obviously still feeling pretty crappy about the whole scenario, getting the blame for that situation.
But he still feels that there's a criminal out there, and he is determined to find that criminal still. He feels to blame for him, so he's still committed to that. We get that impression.
Yes. He's getting himself ready for a job interview, and he goes to meet a guy, doesn't he, at the Bureau of Standards, who's actually quite when he starts going on about how he'd been wrongly accused and for obeying the law and all that sort of thing. The guy was a bit sympathetic on him, wasn't he? And said, "Oh, well, let's clean up your CV a bit, and before we get you on board."
So he was. I think deep down he kind of saw something there that was honest and real. So I thought that was quite good.
I thought that was quite good. And then he's obviously got in there's hundreds of these cubicles we saw across this whole installation. I love that in Star Wars. There's never it looks like there's any pillars or anything or supports for any roof, is there? It's always just this massive ending room where everything just support the four walls support it all in. I
thought it was suitably Star Wars CGI at that moment when he's walking down that thing, all those bays glowing.
yes a little bit of that's crept into this now, hasn't it? You see a little bit of that, but
I like that,
but it's not done too bad, is it? It's
no, it's all right.
And the cubicles would look quite cool. I quite like the little cubicles that they had. They did interesting.
It was interesting. They isolated that shot so you could only see one. Really. And it looked very Star Warsy. And I thought, that feels very much in the right place.
They very much got the style of these things done well in this, haven't they?
I think so.
Really put a bit of thought into it and how they've come up with these scenes. I mean, we saw that in Obi-Wan, didn't we? Some rooms were just like big cavernous empty things with one chair in the middle. But this is very different, which is nice. The other thing which we also see is some more the Imperial sort of behind the scenes. We're seeing that Dedra is putting the pieces together, isn't she? She's working out that this is starting to become a pattern, or there's an approach here. There's a meeting, isn't there, where you see one of the chiefs come down and say, like we're stepping up all our standards now. We're going to
they're in their white room. They're all sitting around looking. They're in the white room, and it's pretty clear that something's going to happen at some point in this setup. So we know we've got a bit of we've got the Lieutenant Blevin, and we've got Dedra, and they're kind of going up against each other. And we're presented with this nice arena, and it doesn't happen in the first scene where we see them all talking, but the second scene, which is pretty soon after, he
tries to call her out, doesn't he? He tries to call her out and say she's been acting.
Is there?
And that's quite interesting how Partagaz deals with it. I'm really liking his character.
Yeah, me too.
And how he portrays it, how the actor portrays it. You know, he does it really well, and it's not a standard
Anton Lesser.
Yeah, it's not a standard sort of imperial person, is he? He's got a bit more thought about him. He's trying to encourage the ones that have got initiative, isn't he? He's trying to, like Dedra, you know, he can see something in her. He likes her and her approach to things. He doesn't mind if she just slightly bends the rules a bit, as long as she's starting to get results. And it's like where he says, just imagine if everybody thought like her within this room. You know, it's like we would be in a much better situation, maybe.
I think that it was interesting, the dynamic there. It was almost a bit fatherly, wasn't it? The way he was doing it. And I think that is probably a sign that there's a lot of the Imperials are too scared to be inventive or have ideas outside the box. And he probably got to where he is through being that way himself. And although they rule by fear, you know, when he sees someone who is really like a dog with a bone and won't let go, I think and it's come across this way. We understand it like this, and I think that's good. It's good writing. There's good acting. Denise Gough as Dedra is excellent.
She's good.
Very believable.
I
think that's key, isn't it? If you can believe that they're those people in these sorts of situations, when you're thrown into a sci-fi world, it's easy to be jolted out by bad acting, I think. But when you see them believe, when you're sucked into that world through these actors, I think it's a really, it's very compelling.
Yes, definitely. So I think all the Imperial stuff has been really good in this series. I've really enjoyed seeing that side of it and making them a bit more like characters. You know, not just you know, Darth Vader-y type people who either get killed or they get they're trying to kill someone. There's a lot more investigation going on here, and I think again, this for me reinforces the fact that this isn't just a standard Star Wars series. It's more like a spy thriller. There's more about you know, trying to sort search these things out than just a straight out battle. So I'm quite enjoying the pace of it and what's going on. We also see Mon Mothma a bit more in this, don't we?
We do,
which she goes back to Luthen, having heard about this attack on Aldhani, and she goes to Luthen and has has it slightly out with him, doesn't she? Because she wasn't. I don't think she was aware that he was planning this whole strategy to rob this thing.
And I think that says a lot, doesn't it, about their relationship and her role. I think by realizing that truth, it helps us understand their relationship in a better way, and the lengths that Luthen will go to.
And also that they are not a completely formulated rebellion yet. You know, they've each got their.
They can't trust anybody necessarily. 100%.
She's trying to do things a bit more covertly and try and get hold of some of her own private wealth, and then he's doing something completely rash, isn't he? Going out and he wants to get out there and hit them hard and be, but she wants to be a bit more. Let's do this under the radar and try and. So it's the combination of this, how it's going to come together, isn't it? Whether they're going to fall, maybe they fall out, maybe there's a big issue between the two of them. I don't know, but he's managed to pull it off. But it obviously is put concerns in her mind, isn't it, on the way forward with this. Now she
realizes the magnitude of it in that moment.
Yes,
I think she's kind of like, hang on a minute. We're not just buying stuff here. We're killing people. There's a bigger picture, you know.
Yeah.
You know, exactly. And Luthen has his sights firmly set on that. And when they hear, and she says, how do you think they're going to react to this? He says, exactly. This is exactly what we need.
Yeah,
we need people to rebel. I mean, that was the main about this episode. I thought that was perhaps a bit clumsy in the speed at which they suddenly up the taxes by 500%, double the. Yeah, I thought that was just a little bit silly because that was an obvious play into the rebellion's hands, isn't it? I think that some of them perhaps should have thought about that a bit more seriously. Isn't it going to make people rebel more? Or they could have explained the iron rule a bit better. Well, but I thought that was a little bit clumsy. That's
how they try and deal with things, isn't it? Just smash it, try and smash it out of existence.
Yeah. Well, there doesn't seem to be much there to smash out of existence, is there? I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
that's very true. It's very true.
But I don't know. But this is probably it's Star Wars, isn't it? It's it's fantasy. These things happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. So she then has this meal, which I think they missed a bit of an opportunity with this. I think, as you were saying before, they could have had a lot more of around the table, these nasty sort of characters, her having a bit of angst with them. I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity with this whole meal sort of scenario.
Ultimately, I did like her meeting with the ambassador from her homeworld. I thought that was good, and that if we'd had a couple of conversations like that, then I think that would have been interesting to sort of set some dynamics going in different areas. But it was fascinating to see. I think Tay, his reaction was. It was a nice little exchange where he says that his views are too strong for her.
Exactly.
Which is interesting. It ties into her perception that that Luthen may well have had of her, and maybe not brought her into the thing completely. Yeah. But then we learn a bit more about her. Then we find out a bit more about him. And I thought it was a nice little exchange. There are some quite nice little political to and fro's in this episode. I thought were really good.
And she's not told him the ins and outs of what she's doing, but she says she wants his help. She wants to be able to get hold of her money, and it's become more difficult. And then her husband who comes and interrupts, isn't he? And now she's saying, "Oh, we can't trust him." It's like that's your husband. It's like
in that instant, she breaks it to him in that second as he approaches, and then he plays it very coolly.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah.
It helped that the husband was very condescending in his approach, so that was easy for him, I guess.
Yeah, we see Cinta there on. There's only a very small snippet, isn't there, of her
moment? Yeah,
she's found a speeder, like an old looking speeder thing, and she's
got a part to play still.
Gone off. She has. She's going to come back into it, isn't she?
Yeah. We see Vel as well.
We see Vel, don't we?
Yeah.
Now she was Luthen's assistant, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Is it Kaya? Is that her name? Or so they meet, don't they? And obviously Vel's looking very different, isn't she? They've
very glamorous.
She's very glamorous in that point. And they obviously talk about any loose ends that are still kicking about, and she basically tasked Vel with going to find Cassian and deal with him.
Yeah, I need to know more about this situation, why they've suddenly said this, because I feel it's suddenly sort of out of the blue. I feel that maybe she's working independently from. No,
I think she said she was wanting to protect Luthen. Because he admits to her in the previous episode that he hadn't been careful, and he'd told Cassian, who he was, and
so who's really in charge of this rebellion? That is the question. This is what made me think here.
Yeah.
I think that she's maybe more influential than we realize.
Yeah.
And that he's perhaps less able to orchestrate this great movement that is he thinks he does, but behind the scenes his assistants. Yeah, I think that he will maybe put a stop to that, or come to his rescue. We know the arc. He's going to become a rebel. It's a painful process, but I think they're throwing things at him aren't they? They're throwing this possibility of being hunted. You know, he's going to have to defend himself.
Yeah.
But the best scene, and you'll be glad, Greg, that I feel the best scene involved
Cassian.
Woo! Yeah, I know. But that wasn't anything to do with him, really. It was to do with Fiona Shaw and her excellent acting as Marva.
Right. Okay.
I think, I mean, she basically, because he goes back to Marva, doesn't he?
He goes back to Ferrex, doesn't he?
Yeah.
To see her.
Yeah, and he
try and convince her to come with him to leave.
He's got loads of money. He wants to leave.
Yeah.
But ironically, and it's a nice little bit of writing, she has been inspired by his actions without her knowing it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there looking all stupid as he's listening to you. I know about that. Yeah, I've heard of this. I love her. She's so good in the scene. She's like, it's like she takes him by the collar and shakes him. You will act to me in this scene.
Yeah.
She really throws everything at it. And she's stalwart and she stands up and she faces him and says, no, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. Yeah. And it's like, you should do it too. But she's like, she doesn't ask him because she doesn't believe he will. And she doesn't believe that he'd ever have any interest in doing anything like that. And, you know, to a certain extent, she's right. So for me, that should have been the motivation for Cassian to join the Empire. I would like to have seen the hesitation in his eyes, but I didn't see anything. And he plays that same character.
Oh, you're getting back onto the same route here of Cassian dip bashing.
Yeah, I think ultimately he I thought the scene was excellent. I thought what she said was excellent. I kind of, that bit where she couldn't walk down the street because she'd see her husband hanging in the road. But then when he did that, she went out into the street. I thought it was a great line, and walked down that road where her husband had hung. And I thought that was great. And I thought that drew upon the narrative of the story. It drew upon that.
Definitely.
And it was powerful. And then he kind of goes off, doesn't he?
You know, he goes and sees Bix, doesn't he? He sort of gives them back the money. She obviously says, you know, you're the one that's being blamed for all of this. And he's like, well, no, it's your ex-boyfriend who should have kept his mouth shut. You know, that's what caused the problem. You know, considering that Bix was the one that was lining him up with Luthen, you know, she can't exactly blame it all on him, you know, but that's the attitude, isn't it? They're all a bit bitter with him and so on. And the other thing we see there was, and you mentioned it a second ago, was the flashbacks of him remembering when that the Imperials had been there before, and they were kind of clone in troopers, weren't they, rather than the normal stormtroopers. They looked like they had the sort of helmets from the latter prequel films, and you know, we saw that his father had tried to help calm people down, hadn't he? But he got caught up in it and got killed because he was involved, you know. So
I thought this was another thing they were throwing at us as viewers to sort of say, well, he should be a rebel, you know.
Yes,
Cassian should be a rebel. His Marva said it. The dad has died. You know, there are lots of things that are piling up here to sort of pressurize him. There doesn't seem to be any giving. He doesn't seem.
No, I know.
All the way.
It is funny, isn't it? Because in when you see him in Rogue One, he's very much part of the cause, isn't he? And trying to get this mission done and do it at any costs, you know. So it's quite interesting. Maybe there's something that happens to his mother that ends up pushing him over the edge, you know, to actually join up. Yeah, well, I mean, that was a good scene, wasn't it, when she refuses to go and he leaves and so on.
The little robot tries to intervene at the end, and she says, "No, shut up." I felt so sorry for the little robot then at that point.
Don't say that you think that the robot's got more expression than Cassian.
In that moment, Well, there's a voice actor inside there, so you know they can project some expression, I guess.
Yes, that's true. I mean, then we see Andor, it felt like it was a little bit of a time jump, but I don't know. It seemed weird. We saw him on this planet, didn't we? Not Niamos, which looked like
a resort planet.
Miami. Yeah, some sort of resort planet. It
must have been at least a few days in the future, because he would have had to have traveled there, wouldn't he? And set himself up with this girlfriend who suddenly appeared.
He's got this girlfriend that took me a little bit by surprise. Sort of like,
who is that?
Yeah, what's going on here? This is weird. It feels like it's gone a few weeks in the future, or is this? I actually wondered, is this like a flashback to the past? Because it got quite a few sort of flashbacky bits, but I presume that this was in the present, of the show. Was that right? Yeah, I presume so. So he obviously goes. She says to him, "We need some stuff from the shop," and so he goes down to the store, and there's a load of trouble, isn't there? Not that we see much. It was a bit weird. This bit. This was a little bit weird. He gets then grabbed, doesn't he, and held up by one of these KSO robots, which is I bet everybody who was watching this thought, is that going to be his mate, but I think no, they've put that in purposely for you to think that, but he's almost choking him, isn't he, holding him against the wall, and then he's put in front of a court and he's sentenced to like 6 years in jail.
I know.
It was all a bit quick, wasn't it, that bit? And a bit like, what the hell,
It was sad, really, because I felt like, as I was saying earlier, that he should have been steered on his path through the persuasion of his loved ones, rather than this could be the thing that makes him escape and become the rebel. And, and I felt like, where's the motivation for that? And it's a shame.
It's not as great a motivation, is it? As if I mean, his father was killed, by Imperials. You'd think, come on, that would steer you down that path. I mean, it steered him a part of the way down there, didn't it? He's rebelling against most things, isn't he? Really.
I think there was a bit in one of the early episodes when he's talking about, listen, if you go up against them, then you die. There's that approach that he had, which is a direct result of his father. But we needed to be reminded of that in this moment, and we weren't. They didn't draw upon that, and we didn't have. I think it's difficult because I think on some levels, I wonder whether the director's working with what he's got to a certain level, and he's like, I don't think Cassian. I don't know whether the actor's going to be able to carry this through, and they have to maybe, I don't know.
Oh, here we go. Blaming it. You're blaming everything on Diego Luna again. I can't believe it.
I can't help it. I just feel
You're finding a theory that fits. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. It's weird. But I was disappointed at the end when they did that. I liked looking at the stormtrooper they had there. With his kit. That was interesting.
Yeah. It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's like they have several different types, don't they? I presume he's like a sand or hot country, so that's what it looks like, isn't it?
But, it did.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
There'll be a figure for that, probably.
Well, I've seen them before. I've seen them before in other things.
Yeah.
So but I mean, ultimately, it was still a good episode. I was quite pleased with it. I think we're preparing for some more stuff. I'm wondering what's going to happen now that he's going to go to prison. Is he going to be broken out? Are they going to think he can't divulge the information about the but then no one would know. He's a different name. He's not using Cassian Andor, is he?
You think this point Val would be like, he's in prison for 6 years. We'll leave him there. No worries.
Yeah, exactly. Even more reason to leave him there. Yeah. So that's taken a little bit of a funny end turn, hasn't it? To where we want to go with this story,
It felt like it was nice and smooth. The engine was running smoothly, and at the end, it just kind of just smoke started coming out of it. It was like we were on a nice smooth ride. We were in very comfortable land with some very experienced actors doing what they do very well, and then suddenly at the end. So we'll see.
But I'm still really impressed with all the setup. I think the direction's pretty good. I think it's, like you say, there's been some good performances by the actors. The scenery's great. You know, how they're doing all the different outfits and sets, and you know, it's looks a lot more real, doesn't it? It looks a lot less screeny sort of stuff. Which makes a difference. It makes quite an atmospheric difference. You know, it's got a nice style about it. I thought
it was good. I enjoyed the episode, and I'm relieved that we've got back into this comfort zone where we've got some seriously good actors doing what they do, which is great, and you can enjoy the on-screen presence much more. It's been I was pleased with the episode.
Okay, well, thanks for watching today. We'd love it if people could subscribe and like and comment on the videos. Otherwise, we'll see you again soon.